Welcome back to the SCIF. This is episode number 8. I am Matt here with Chris, and we are going to delve into some issues today. It's pretty much going to be a rap session between Chris and I, but please feel free to ask any questions. Don't be worried if they're ridiculous. We like ridiculous questions. Chris is wearing some ridiculous sunglasses. We don't have an issue with any of that right now. So, we got a lot to talk to. Chris and I just had a class last week out in Pennsylvania. It went great.
Yeah.
We want to thank Chris. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, man, I'm really psyched up tonight. I miss being on here, man, and chatting with everybody and seeing some of this stuff. But yeah, really, it was an awesome time. We had really good students. I think they learned a lot of stuff from us. I want to really thank the range down at Sandy Creek Conservancy. I'm going to mention a few names out there. So Aaron and Charlie and Brandy and some of my family that really helped out with everything. We had great food, we had great weather, and we had just an awesome time. So thank you everybody who pitched in with that. That was wonderful. And
it's a great facility. I'm sorry, Chris, did I step on you there?
No, go ahead.
It's a great facility, and if you are in the western Pennsylvania area, check it out. They got a beautiful trout stream that runs through the whole thing, and it's a very, very nice facility and very, very nice people. So if you're in the area of western Pennsylvania, it's up near the town of Franklin. Phenomenal facility and phenomenal people. All right.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Let's get right to it, man. A lot of stuff to cover, so I'm going to dive right into with the Seattle fiasco. What do you think? We just touch on it for a few minutes, and go from there.
We're still. I'm not completely up to speed on what's going on, but from what I know, is there's a whole crew of Antifa types out there that have basically taken over a portion of the city. The inept mayor, the inept governor, and the inept police chief are doing nothing about it. And the rumor is they're running around open carrying. We don't have problems with that, but they're using it as a prop. And they are apparently shaking businesses in the area down. So what that means, if it's just money, I don't know, or what else is going on, but this is not America. They've taken over a police precinct as well. Somebody told me the police precinct was already abandoned, but this is not America. This is not what we're about here. And it's funny where we're having these issues in states and cities run by one party. Now, not to paint everybody in that party with a brush, but if there's systemic anything in Seattle, if there's systemic anything in Minneapolis, if there's systemic anything in Philadelphia, if there's systemic anything in Los Angeles, I can go on and on and on and on. It has nothing to do with conservatives or the Republican Party. So I just hate taking a big brush and wiping everything over and saying everybody is part of this. Just like I don't like to hear all police are this, that, or the other thing, when that is a load of junk. There are some bad people in every single aspect of life, but making a wide swath, which is what certain people on the left right now want us to believe. They want us to believe that this is a systemically racist country, which it is not. And they want us to believe that they have some of the answers, which they don't. We need to stick together as Americans and quit segmenting ourselves. I think everybody was disgusted by what happened in Minneapolis to that individual. And to the state's credit, they moved quickly. Um, that individual is the one who did that, and he needs to be responsible for what he did. You cannot say all cops are like that. That is so far from the truth, because I don't know one cop that hasn't seen that video and been absolutely disgusted by what they saw. So that's my thoughts right now on the issue. Chris, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, real quick, and then we'll go with the first question here. So it seems to me that everybody was real quick to jump to the and play the racism card here, and that's what gets me, because you Keller, me, you look at me, I'm white, man. There's no doubt about that. But what does we all have a color? Okay, so
Yeah,
what, man? So what?
yeah.
That doesn't make the person. Your color
Mhm.
doesn't make you, man. It's what you're made of. That's
That's
what makes
exactly
it.
right.
You and I both served with all kinds of different people, and it's just so funny that everybody's willing to jump to the race card real quick, and that's what gets me. And that's that whole Seattle thing. Wow. You know,
Yeah.
that just goes to show you right there that that stuff exists. And who in their right mind? Now the people that put that the lady in office and all them people out there, what are they thinking? That's what I'd like to know. What are they thinking? Like, wow,
Well,
man,
looking
that's
at the similar situation here in Minneapolis. The
yeah,
city council in Minneapolis, it takes talent to assemble a group of people that are totally inept at running a major city, including the mayor. And I think this last incident has shown this. Um, I think you could gather a bunch of grade school kids together, and they would have a better handle on running the 13th largest city in the country than this crew that they've got running it right now. Abolish the police department. I watched the head of the city council in Minneapolis on CNN, and she was talking to Allison Camerata on CNN. And to her credit, Allison Camerata said, who are we supposed to call if somebody's breaking into my house, threatening my family? And she says, well, the idea that you would even be able to call anybody is your privilege. And I'm like, it doesn't even make any sense. What the hell is she talking about? But these are the people that are making decisions that affect the 13th largest city in the United States. And what they're doing right now is any business that was destroyed, which includes minority businesses down there, small businesses that a lot of them didn't even have insurance because of the neighborhood they were in, the rates were too high. Those businesses aren't ever coming back. Okay, the media doesn't talk about these people, but these
yeah,
people had small businesses trying to get by, lift themselves up into the middle class, and then a bunch of punks came by, burned it down. The city allowed them to do that, and make no mistake, I know Jacob Fry is trying to backpedal on what he did. The city allowed that to happen, and now you have some other bigger corporations and companies that said we're not going to build, we're not going to rebuild in Minneapolis. We have no confidence in the leadership in the city and that you're going to protect us. So that is one of the main fundamental responsibilities of elected officials, and they failed. And what they are going to do is turn that city and other cities like it, Washington and Seattle, Washington, they're going to turn these cities into a ghost town. Their tax base is going to be gone overnight. You've got people who can't think one step ahead, let alone two steps ahead, and are all about social justice on these city councils, running these cities. And they're going to run these cities into the ground. And tell me how many people are going to suffer once they destroy these once vibrant American cities. Who's going to suffer after this? This is
yeah,
just lunacy. Left and right have to come together and get back to some sort of rational thinking. It's all right to be left. It is all right to be right. Everybody has their opinion, provided your heart is in the right place and you are thinking in the benefit of what's best for America. Hey, we don't have the answers. Nobody does. We have ideas based on our personal experiences. But right now, there's so much, and it's being done for a reason. You know, the way everything is being divided up, it's like almost like how Al Qaeda and these terrorist units operate. Because people say, well, what is terrorism? Well, there's bombs, there's terror. Well, what they really are, they create friction. They find ethnic differences and long-standing ethnic differences or sectarian differences, and they try to drive a wedge to get those two sides to fight. And that's what I think some agitators that are behind Antifa and some of the people that are behind Black Lives Matter, not all, but I think there are people that are behind it pushing this narrative in order to divide us and to get us to fight and create an issue where the best outcome for America doesn't happen and that we eventually collapse in on ourselves. That's what I think is happening. So the left and the right have to get together if they are true American patriots and want a country like we've always had, not a perfect country, but the best country in the world to provide opportunity to lift yourself up from poverty to the middle class, lift yourself up from the middle class to the upper class. There's not a country in the world that has these freedoms and that has a system that enables everybody to do this. So when you hear that this country is systemically racist, that's a bunch of bullshit, and don't fall for it, because it's only designed to do one thing, and that's divide us. Is there some racism? Yes, there's racism. We need to deal with it, right? But this is the best place on earth, and right now there are forces that are using some young, impressionable people to help bring this country to its knees and destroy the greatest place on earth.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
Well, yeah, I agree, man. This is the best. Being in some real holes, man, overseas. Hands down, we got the best of everything right here. And to see it from a veteran standpoint, to see it destroyed, it's just very, very upsetting to me. I can't stand it. And I almost want to say, let's fight it out. I mean, I like to fight, man. I mean, there's no doubt. And we can do it. And if that's the case, man, I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about it. So, I can see them little, man, I'll see the picture today.
Well,
guy carried an AR,
come on, man. Here's the deal. These people running around.
Go back in your hole and stay there, dude, or something.
You can't, we do not, there are people that are trying to push something here, and we do not want to go there. We do not want to go there. These are fellow Americans. So I think people need to take a step back, take a deep breath, and start thinking about this. People running around with ARs is fine if it's demonstrating their freedoms here in the United, not threatening other people. And that's what the left is doing there, and that's what it sounds like is going on in Seattle. I don't have the full story. We're getting some hearsay on this. If anybody knows anything more, please speak up on it and help us with this. But this is not a good situation, and we want to get back to working for the benefit of our whole country. We focus on individuality here. This is what our country was founded on. You have the freedom here to be anything you want to be. You can be any religion. You can have any ideas. You can speak your mind. You can do what you want. But I think one of the things that you need to be cognizant of is this is the greatest place on earth, and you need to be a patriot, okay? What the proper way we move forward is, that's up for debate. People can have different ideas, but you should have the best interest in a place that you want your family to thrive in. And we have this here. And listening to all this garbage saying that, because I'm a certain color, I'm automatically systemically racist and I have implicit bias, and that is bullshit. It is nonsense. And I think people are catching on to this. Watching that stunt last week with Nancy Pelosi and Gerald Nadler and the whole crew over there that dressed up in the African garb and took a knee and all of that. They think people are stupid. They think people are stupid. That was such a transparent stunt, and it backfired on them, as it should. We need to get away from this nonsense. We are all Americans. In the military, we didn't give a shit. You really didn't. You didn't give a shit what somebody was, okay? And I think as Americans, we need to look at each other as fellow Americans, not as I'm this, you're that, you've done this, you have a history of that, your side has this. That's bullshit. We're Americans. Enough of this nonsense. So, I see the first question here from Phil. What did you guys enjoy about the permit class? Well, the permit class was part of what we taught out there. We taught a multi-state concealed carry class that is always good to get people's minds thinking. And when you see that somebody thought of specific things or heard specific things that you're like, wow, I didn't even notice that. I can't even have a firearm in your vehicle in a parking lot of a post office. When people see that and they're like, wow, I would have never known that.
Yeah.
You know? So little things like that is interesting. The more interesting portion is teaching new shooters, getting them past that anxiety and getting them to realizing that they can actually do this, and it's not unobtainable for them to become a proficient shooter. And that's the most enjoyable part of the training, I think. Chris may have another idea, but breaking something that people think is very difficult and complex and showing them that it's not. It's very basic. It's about putting a few things together and sticking to some fundamentals and simplifying the process and getting somebody over that mental hurdle. Shooting is 99% mental, as is many things. Okay, getting them past that hurdle and watching the idea open up that I can actually do this is probably the best part. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think watching the new shooters come along when they get that ability and they make some adjustments, even the people that have shot before, I think with our instruction they come along nicely. They get settled in. They start shooting a little better. I'll definitely agree with you on the new shooters coming along and picking up those skills that we were teaching and shooting really good. The other part that I really like is when people realize they can shoot it and they can shoot it well, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time to figure that out. And they realize the really the parameters of the weapon they're using. So some of them may walk away and say, hey, I want to get a different weapon. I don't like this based on what I've seen here today. And they go and they may purchase a different weapon or something like that. So you learn more about yourself, you learn more about your weapon, and you just learn to be a better shooter overall. So I really enjoy bringing all that together.
And I think Chris and I both, I think there's a lot of, Chris and I both, you should be able to pretty much shoot anything, okay? But some people, elderly people, sometimes people that don't have strong hands, you don't want to close off parameters for them, okay? Everybody says, oh you got to shoot a 9mm. Anything less than that is a waste of time. That's bullshit. Here we go again with you must do. When you hear you must do one thing one way, bullshit, okay? Maybe an elderly woman can only handle a 22. Maybe you're comfortable with a 22 and you're not comfortable with anything beyond that. You shoot a 22, you can get rounds on target. You shoot a 9mm, you can't get rounds on target. You can't rack the slide, right? So what's more important? Let me ask you, Chris. Having a 9mm or bigger and not being able to get as many rounds on target, or having a 22 and be able to put those shots where you want them to go?
Yeah, definitely having the 22 and getting the shots on the target is definitely better. So even though, and here's the thing, like, as long as you're okay, so it goes back to one of our concepts when we say something is better than nothing. Okay, so a 22 with 10 shots on target, that's awesome. A 9mm, maybe you missed the first one and get 5 or 6 on out of the 20, but the 22 you were solid with, you had your sights, and that is a factor when it comes to defensive shooting, because
Mm-hmm.
you in here your life is threatened. You're identifying your target. You took the steps. You said, "Hey, don't mess with me." You know, whatever that scenario may be. But at the end of the day, you were very proficient with the 22, and you got a lot of rounds on the target, and that person's gonna, whoever your target is going to be in some pain. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, definitely getting rounds on target.
Yeah, get something you feel comfortable with, something that operates. Uh, we didn't mean to talk about this right now, but maybe it's a subject that kind of it should be brought up. Uh, there are the largest demographic in the shooting sports industry right now is what, Chris?
It's definitely women.
It's women. So the largest demographic in the shooting sports industry is women, and traditionally there hasn't been a lot of uh, focus that's been pushed that way. And recently that's changed. The industry realizes this. And I think the training world is starting to realize it. We realize it for sure. Especially you're seeing it after the COVID incident. Now you're seeing it after the rioting. There's a lot of people out there that never would have thought that they would get into the shooting sports, whether it's for personal defense, whether they get into it for personal defense and realize that, hey, it's actually cathartic. And uh, this is something I enjoy doing, right? But it's a really good time right now. So there's some offerings now that are aimed more at women. And the biggest hurdle for those offerings are stereotypes usually put in place by well-intentioned husbands, boyfriends, male counterparts. And that's kind of where that subject that we were just talking about, the 9 mil versus the 22 and all of that. But there was a gun a few years ago that I think SIG accidentally tripped on. And I think it was more of a European type thing. It was a gun they sold in Europe, but they also carried it over to here. When they introduced the 250, I know people do not like the 250. The 250 is an awesome gun for what it is. Um, but they happened to come out with a 380 version of the SIG 250. And they had it in the subcompact as well. And that gun right there was super soft shooting. It was double action only. Okay. So it was a good gun for people that if they accidentally do put their finger on the trigger, you're going to intentionally have to pull that trigger as opposed to accidentally under a stressful situation, maybe with a striker fired gun sending around downrange. Um, but it was an easy gun for them to rack and slide, and it became a huge hit with women. Well, fast forward, SIG introduced the 320 and had so much success with the 320, they discontinued the 250. And I think Smith & Wesson saw an opening here, and they came out with the gun, the M&P 380 EZ, okay, which is a version of the Shield. And when you look at the gun, traditionally 380 ACP guns were small, super small. And because they were super small and they were chambered in 380 AC, they kicked like a mule, okay? And barked like a dog, kicked like a mule, right? And Smith brought this gun out, and it was a little bigger, okay? So it was actually bigger than a regular shield, a 9 mm shield. It had a grip safety on it. It had an internal hammer, but it looked like it was a striker fired gun, and that's hence the grip safety on it. And when they introduced it, everybody's like, well, who the hell's this gun for? This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen, right? Because it wasn't 380, a round that wasn't considered a good personal defense round. It was a bigger 380, right? This gun was brilliant, and whoever came out with this idea from Smith & Wesson was brilliant because this gun shoots as soft, damn near as a 22. It shoots a 380 ACP round. Okay, the ergonomics are phenomenal. They had the magazine, so you can load the magazine just like the 22, where it has the wings on the magazine, so you can just pull those down and stick the new round in. And it is a hit. And if you have a female shooter coming from another firearm, like a revolver that maybe their husband got them into, or something that's too big for them, a 40 or something along those lines, which is a super snappy round, they shoot this thing and fall in love with it. And I think it's awesome because there's a gun right off the bat. If you have a new shooter that wants to have a legitimate defensive round, they don't want to stick with the 22. They want something a little more potent, right? It is a fantastic gun. They can rack the slide. That sounds like that. We don't pay attention to that because it doesn't seem like a big deal for us. But somebody who's smaller and doesn't maybe have the upper body strength, or somebody who's older, arthritic hands, and so forth, that's a big deal. And they did this thing right, and it's completely catered to that market. So now, not only is it a huge seller for women, but a lot of men are starting to carry this gun as well, just because it shoots so sweet and it's soft recoiling, and it's just an easy gun, hence the name 380 Easy. It sounds like I just made an ad for this gun, but I really thought the concept hit it out of the ballpark. And I bet you're going to see some of the other manufacturers doing something along the same line.
Yeah, that's
Chris, you have some experience on this, don't you?
yeah, the 380 EZ is definitely women need to try it out. So I have some pretty good experience with this type of weapon over the past like year. I know one, two, at least three females that bought one that I have trained personally, and they seem to love it. I mean, they shoot very well with it, and it's very easy to learn right out of the gate. And the more they shoot with it, I can tell, because we had a second iteration with this person too, and she did very well with it, and she gets more and more comfortable with it every time she's out there. So that's
that's sort
awesome.
of, I think we're thinking about the same person right now. But it was really fun to see high anxiety at the beginning to, wow, I can shoot this. And it was, I thought she was going to do a backflip, but it was awesome. All right, we got another question here. What are your thoughts about the gangs in Chicago coming together and protecting privately owned businesses, and the cops were letting them do it? I don't know much about this, to be honest with you, but if that's in fact what's happening, I'd be for that. I mean, here we go with the brush again. Sometimes, you have gang members, and growing up in some of these neighborhoods, they have no choice but to be in a gang. Now, is that a way of life? No, it's ultimately going to hurt them. But that's not to mean that there might be some people there that realize that their neighborhoods are being destroyed. Sometimes this is an opening for people to see the good that they can actually do. And people that may have thought that they're in a dead end and realize that, I've got no hope, I have to resort to a life of crime. Well, maybe some of these people, that might be a spark in them and say, hey, we actually do have the ability to do something positive for somebody else. And guess what? It feels good. So I would be all about whoever. I'm a person that believes in redemption. We are imperfect beings from the get-go. So I am all about somebody realizing that they haven't lived the life that they should have, and seeing the light, so to speak, and turning their life around. I love that story. It takes discipline to do that. And some of these people, reformed drug addicts, reformed gang members. I like to see those stories because it gives me hope. And somebody that's been through that in their past, a little bit of tragedy, and is able to get through that, can end up being a very, very productive member of society, I think. And it makes me happy because they have life experience that they're adding to things and building along the way. That's one thing that young people never realize. Everything that our thoughts are molded by what our personal experiences are. So being a young person, you're very sheltered and you're limited on what your experiences are. As you get older, your views and ideas change. I don't think I can personally change anybody's mind for them. I think people have to be able to change their mind for themselves. I could probably be so domineering that I could convince somebody not to have an open mind just to spite me, right? But I think people with life experience, and that is a life experience. We take the good, we take the bad, we learn from them. And if that's in fact what people are doing and they're doing something good and positive here, provided there's not an ulterior motive, I'm all about it. And I hope that it sparks some life into some of these people and realize that, hey, their life isn't wasted. They can be anything they want to be. They've been dealt some bad cards, but they can get through it with some discipline and a good heart.
I think this works kind of two ways. I agree with that. That would definitely be my first, what you're talking about, Matt. There, somebody stepping up that really has maybe little or no interest in the business, but is doing the right human thing. The second thing is that maybe, just maybe, somebody will look at this and go, you know what, that was a righteous move, and I only hope, because we always hear these horror stories coming out of Chicago, 14 murders, 13 murders, whatever the body count is for the weekend. But I'd be curious to know if these guys they have guns. And if that's the case, here we go. We've proved our point about the weapons. That just goes to show it right there. So if that's a deterrent already, then it's done its job. So maybe that whole gun thing for Chicago, whatever the rules are in there, that maybe that city council needs to sit down and think that through again, because
here's
that's
the
my biggest concern.
well the in this I grew up in Chicago. That's probably, I wasn't born there, but that's where I spent the majority of my youth, in a suburb north. So not in the inner city or anything along those lines, but Chicago has really gone downhill even since I moved away from Chicago in the mid 90s. But getting back to that, we sort of touched on it at the very beginning, that the real victims in all of this were these small minority-owned businesses that these agitators coming in from, who knows, maybe the suburbs, maybe coming in from, I can tell you all the people that were burning and looting down there were not from the area. They may have been from Minneapolis or wherever they were rioting. But the real victims are the people trying to provide a service for the neighborhood, whether it's a small grocery store, whether it's a nail salon, whether it's anything, beauty supply, any one of those are small businesses that, and I'm just thinking of the ones in Minneapolis because I saw a list of ones that, but I'd imagine they're the same. They're the same wherever this happened. And these people have been devastated, and people know those people. And I think maybe some of these people have realized that, holy smokes, there's a lot of agitators out there that are trying to use a cause and think that we're just going to jump on board and be involved with this. And the people in our own community are the ones that are getting hurt. And maybe that's what they're looking. It's very easy to look at a corporation like Target and say, oh, well, they got the money, they can rebuild again. Well, that's another story altogether, because that's also a false narrative. Because do you think Target wants to go back in and build again? People go there to get their prescriptions. They go there to get their groceries. They employ maybe 300 people per Target. Those people are out of a job if Target decides not to build in that area again. But these small little businesses, that was their one and only shot of, getting the opportunity to be successful and try to get themselves up into that middle class. That's what makes this country run, the middle class and small business. That's really what it, at the end of the day, that's the engine of our country. And the media is not covering any of it, because guess what? It paints a different narrative to the story they're trying to sell. But the real victims in all of this are those small businesses that have just been destroyed by a bunch of shitheads who came in and used an event as an excuse. Don't tell me you're trying to make it better by burning somebody's business down and stealing all of their inventory. Is that going to get anybody justice? No, that's not going to do a damn thing. And these city councils and these wimp mayors with no life experience that allow this to happen, people need to start waking up and maybe voting different people. This brings up, in Chicago, there was a leaked conversation between the city council and the mayor. Did you hear that by any chance, Chris?
No.
There was a councilman, and I guess he has a history with Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago. And they had a history, but he was bringing up some valid points about businesses being torched and the city not doing a damn thing about it. And she just went ballistic on this guy. Now, I don't know the full background between the two, but at the end of it, I'm like, man, he's making some points here, and this guy must, unless he's just using it to beat the mayor over his head, he must be a legitimate dude. And I wish I remembered his name, but I don't. But it gives you a little bit of hope, because I know the city council here in Minneapolis is, I think the whole city council is just absolutely, I mean, not even close to being rational. But this guy had some rational points and was really putting some pressure on the mayor, and gives me a little bit of hope, anyways, that there is some rationality out there.
I want to start back at the beginning where we started a little bit, and kind of because maybe some of the people missed it, but excuse me. We had the opportunity to shoot in Franklin, Pennsylvania. Excuse me. This past weekend, the range is called Sandy Creek Conservancy, and we had the range is an excellent place. The facilities are very well taken care of, and just an awesome time. The students we had learned a lot, so look for the return for us back to Sandy Creek. We've asked them to come back, and they agreed. So we're coming back in August. Anybody who lives in that area or wants to even travel to there, it's a beautiful spot. There's a few things to do in rural Franklin, Pennsylvania, but not a whole lot. But you would definitely have a good time shooting, and hopefully we get some more nice weather for it. That was the first thing. And the other thing that we need to touch on, Matt, is Sig Sauer's overseas thing real quick. And I know that we're both really fond of the Sig Sauer weapon line, and we just wish those brothers I mean, they're strong in America, like you said, but let's support them by buying their stuff.
What I think Chris is talking about, Chris and I both like SIG products. I don't know if you give it fanboy status. There's a lot of guns I like, but I really am. I've always been sort of drawn to SIG, and I think they innovate. I think they trip on themselves every once in a while because of that innovation, and sometimes they bring stuff to market that maybe should have had some more time on it, but I think they make fantastic products. I think they make innovative products, and I'm just a fan of the company, and I know Chris is too. And it was recently announced that Sig Sauer was filing for bankruptcy. Now it's a little misleading, because SIG is actually, when you look at SIG, there's three parts to SIG. There's the Swiss SIG, right? There's the German SIG, right? And then there's SIG USA. SIG USA is kicking ass, okay? A lot of the real high-end Sig Sauer products were made either in Switzerland or Germany, primarily Germany, because, and I don't quite understand all of this, but apparently firearms that are made in Switzerland have to sort of stay in Switzerland. There's something goofy about it. And this is really why they moved, they built this plant in Germany. With what's going on in Europe and their loss of freedoms in Europe, because Europe is, I hate to say they're lost, but they're almost lost. They're destroying themselves, and they basically have put a lot of pressure on Sig Sauer in Germany. That basically they don't get any contracts because they also sell their firearms overseas and in America, and they're very, very pro, American Second Amendment and freedom and gun owning, and they've sort of been punished. They don't get any German contracts or anything along the lines over there, those lines. And they're being forced to shut the plant down in Germany. Now, SIG USA, while it still sort of falls under that umbrella, SIG USA is extremely successful. SIG USA was kind of like a subsidiary, but it looks like SIG is going to be more of an American company than anything else. A portion of it, one of their legs was American, German, Swiss, right? But it looks like SIG is going to be, which is technically a good thing. They ain't going anywhere. SIG USA is not hurting at all. Everything that you're seeing is over there in Europe, and it's because of the anti-gun restrictions and everything else. This is the market for firearms here in the United States. Over there, it's all about government contracts because the average citizen can't have a firearm. SIG is not going anywhere. SIG is super strong and healthy here in the United States, but SIG does a lot. They've never, and I don't want to mention names of some of the other firearm manufacturers, but they have a dubious past of sidling up to our government and different state governments as well to limit yours and my ability to be able to purchase and own firearms or a certain number of firearms. That's happened all over. And there's 3 companies I can think off the top of my head, and I know there's more. But as far as I know, there are some good companies like SIG and Glock, and there's some other ones too, and I don't want to leave people out, that have never gotten involved with that nonsense. Even though a lot of pressure has been put on them, they've never gotten involved with that nonsense. So I'm just a fan of the company. Check out some of their products. I think, and this is my personal opinion, I think the all-around best striker-fired handgun on the market is the 320. I just do. That's my opinion. I'm not saying my opinion's golden. And a lot of it's personal preference. There's so many good guns on the market now. I mean, we have our choice, really. They're all so damn good that we can sit back and say, well, I like this one and I like this one for specific reasons. I like the innovation. I like it. For me, I like it. Are there other handguns that I can shoot? Yeah, absolutely. And I love them. It's just I prefer SIG, and I don't think anybody needs to be concerned about them going anywhere because they're probably the healthiest, or if not one of the healthiest companies here in the United States, firearms companies here in the United States. And all of these firearm companies that have stuck by us need to be supported because politicians every day are coming up with new ways to try to go after these companies. They back in the day disseminated out of Chicago, but they started with the Housing and Urban Development, went after these companies to try to make them responsible if one of their products was used in a crime, that they could then be opened up for lawsuits. And this is how the Democrats do a lot of things. And you can see what they're doing today with trying to the immunity from prosecution for law enforcement. That's one of the things they're trying to push through right now. And what they're really doing is saying, here, trial attorneys are our second biggest contributor after unions. Trial attorneys, here's your payoff. Now go and sue the hell out of all these police officers that really didn't do anything wrong. You're opening them up for liability. So that's how you break things. And what they're trying to do right now is intimidate banks, and a lot of the banks are willing participants of not giving loans or helping process funds. It should be illegal for them to do this to a legal corporation here in the United States, but they're doing it. I know Bank of America is one of them. I don't want to name. I don't know. Bank of America, I'm pretty sure, is one of them, and I want to say Chase Manhattan, but don't quote me on that. But that's what they're doing. They're putting pressure on these banks, and some of these banks are willing participants. Support these firearm manufacturers. And right now, firearms are selling all over the place. But what happened was Trump got elected, and people just like, oh, there's not a rush. I don't need to buy. Maybe I can wait until I feel that my rights are being threatened to purchase. Support these companies. They've stood by us. They're 100% American made in most cases. Manufacturers here, skilled labor. Support American skilled labor. Support these manufacturers. Whatever flavor you like. Glock, FN. Some of these, they have big American presence here. Factories here. They may not technically be. FN is, from Belgium, and Glock is Austrian, right? But they have huge. This is their manufacturing base. It really is. And they're, for all intents and purposes, American companies employing American tradesmen and people with real talent. Support these companies. Smith and Wessons, support them. Some of them have had some dubious past, even Springfield and all of that. But at the end of the day, the machinists working at Springfield are Americans. Some of the stuff is made in Croatia. Some of it's made here. We do not need to lose any of our major manufacturers. So support, figure out which one you like, argue about what gun is better. They're all good. Every major manufacturer makes a kick-ass product, but support them. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Chris?
Yeah, I had a question today about concealed carry permits. So here's what Matt and I, just a little background real quick. Matt and I are both qualified instructors through USCCA. That's the United States Concealed Carry Association. And
as well as other organizations, NRA,
yeah.
NTOA, Alice. So
here I was some guy asked me about the Utah permit. So here's the deal, and I've had this question a lot about this Utah gig. So here's the thing with Utah. The instructor has to go to Utah and
Correct.
has to have an official there, and that can be one of three different ones, and one of them to being a law enforcement officer, teach a concealed carry class to that instructor, and then that instructor is qualified to teach the Utah portion. Now,
yeah, and you get the same states that you get with the Florida, and you don't have those requirements with Florida.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you're saying, Chris?
Yeah, exactly. So that USCCA has agreement letters with most of the states, but the one that we like to teach is the Florida. Now, according to the stats, 1.7 million, over 1.7 million concealed carry Florida permit holders are in the United States. So the course that we teach would enable you to get that permit. So USCCA allows us through their contacts with Florida to teach that portion.
Yeah, and what Chris is talking about, it all depends on what state you're in. For example, because if we do a class in Minnesota, Florida accepts the Minnesota class because it's so stringent, and it's one of the few states that require you to actually shoot as well. But in general, for example, we were in Pennsylvania, and in Pennsylvania, they have a very different way. You don't even, technically, for a concealed carry permit, you don't even have to take a class, right? But if you want that multi-state, you teach Florida, and so it's a great way. Utah used to be the other big one, but now what Chris said right there is exactly right. Have to go to Utah and just jump through some extra hoops that you don't have to with Florida. So did somebody bring that up and ask you why do you teach Florida as opposed to Utah, Chris?
Yeah, exactly. Because the first thing, this is the third person that's asked me about it, and they're like, "Well, isn't Utah more states?" Well, they don't understand that the instructor has to be Utah qualified, and USCCA offers more qualified instructors even throughout the nation.
And
So,
it's not any
yeah,
more states. It's the same number of states. Yeah,
and
it's
it's
the same
just
states. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just much easier to do it the other way. So, maybe Utah will come on board. I don't know, but I mean, maybe
Well,
the
here's
affiliates
what else.
USCCA can get out there and talk to them. But
Here's what else you're starting to get. Minnesota used to accept Florida. Okay, you're going to see states like Minnesota. There is a high number of people here who are freedom loving and gun owners in the state of Minnesota, but the state's leadership is they're they're anti-freedom, anti. It's it's really that's the case, and so this state is run by Democrats. All the major cities are run by Democrats, but the outlying areas are sane, logical thinking people. And I shouldn't say that because a lot of them are old time Democrats that are. Um, but it seems like they're punitive on some of these things. And here's what you really have to be careful. There's been a lot of landmines, laid down in front of you when we're talking about concealed carry, that you really need to make sure that you understand exactly. Everything is on you, right? Once you get that certificate, everything is on you. So uh, the state of Minnesota is now doesn't accept hardly anybody else's. In fact, I have to take a look at it, but they don't accept pretty much anybody else's. And I think they were doing that with the hopes that these other states would say, oh, okay, well, we're not going to accept yours. Some states like Florida have not taken that bait and realized that it's a proper. They have good certification and requirements in the state of Minnesota, and they continue to accept Minnesota as far as that's concerned. So if you take a class in Minnesota, you just learn the Minnesota and you get the ability to go and apply for the Florida because Florida accepts Minnesota. And other states that don't have that requirement and Florida doesn't accept it, we teach Florida. So you're able to apply as an out-of-state resident, concealed carry holder in Florida, and that opens up the doors for these additional states. Utah used to be the other big one. They've made a few extra hoops that you don't want to jump through now. So that's why you're seeing Florida as the big state for multi-state concealed carry. Chris, your microphone is off. I can't hear you.
okay, yep, there we go. Yeah, so this goes back to we're big advocates of learning your equipment and knowing the ins and outs of all that stuff, your gear, all that stuff, and the course encompasses a lot of stuff, the legal issues, some mental stuff, and again, like we were saying, so yeah, the USCCA has a bunch of stuff available for people who want to join, but it also gives you that confidence that some you've got the right information and can carry that on. Um, but like for example, like Matt touched on was Pennsylvania. Yeah, you can go right down to the courthouse, get your background check, and you walk out of there, and you have your concealed carry permit. But how much do you shoot and things like that? So we're finding that people like us, like-minded people, want to come down and get some training on their weapon. They don't have a lot of time usually to do that, but we can get them and we can focus all the attention on those 2 days to get them trained on that weapon so they're able to carry out whatever scenario that is that they need to defend themselves or their family in. So if you just buy a weapon and you're carrying it and you don't go shoot it and you don't have no muscle memory on the functions or anything like that, you're really at a disadvantage. So,
Well,
come out to our
you touched on a good point there, and I think we need to elaborate a little bit because Chris said 2 days. Okay, a concealed carry class is a 1 day class. Okay, but what Chris and I like to do is add an additional element, and it's your choice. Okay, but we add an additional day of shooting fundamentals. So we start off; it's kind of like a crawl, walk, run. We see where you're at, and we try to tailor it to the individual, right? But we really believe heavily in spending the time to not just get you the legal aspects of it, but to get you comfortable with that gun so you can be safe with that gun and understand your equipment, like Chris said, and be confident that not only do you have this concealed carry permit, but you know how to use your firearm. And we're also working on a class here that for people that are a little bit uncomfortable with the idea of carrying out in public, it's going to be an experiential type deal where we'll take you out in public and we'll talk about options on how you can carry, whatever that may be. And we don't restrict it because there's certain people that says, absolutely, you cannot carry off body. There we go, bullshit again, because that may not fit into women and how they dress every day and certain men and how they dress every day. You may not physically be able to have a firearm on you. And sometimes it works better out of a purse, for example, made for a firearm. There's safe ways to do that, but you got to do it safely. So we do an experiential class where we'll go out into the public and start getting you comfortable into that. Now, if you just want to take our concealed carry class, we are going to be offering a bunch here coming up in July in Wisconsin and Minnesota. In Grantsburg, Wisconsin, and in Prior Lake, Minnesota. We're going to be at the Grantsburg Rod and Gun Club up in Wisconsin. And in Minnesota, we're going to be at Horse and Hunt Club. We offer our one-day course if you just want CCW, and that's perfectly fine. That's a $90 class. We want it to be affordable because we really like the USCCA curriculum. We can teach NRA as well. I think the USCCA curriculum is really, really good. The NRA's is too. USCCA offers some other things that we like to talk about as well. But we also offer a 2-day class, and we're trying to make this affordable for people. And I know there's a lot of new people out there. We really enjoy teaching new shooters, if you haven't picked that up yet. But we also enjoy teaching advanced shooters too. But the 2-day class, which is you're going to get a full day on the range, starting from, we're going to go through the fundamentals, and we kind of do that in the CCW class too, the 5 fundamentals of shooting. We go through that, we get out on the range, we start out on paper targets, and try to find what any issues that might be there, correct those issues, move on to where you're starting to transition to different targets. And then after that, we're going to be shooting steel, and we're going to be running through exercises where you learn to utilize cover, and you learn to move, you learn to communicate, you learn to clear malfunctions, you get your heart rate up a little bit, and basically working these fundamentals. And it's a crawl, walk, run, building the confidence that you're going to have in your weapon system, whatever that weapon system may be. So you can come and do just the CCW. I would strongly, strongly, strongly suggest doing the 2-day if you can do it. We've made it extremely affordable. For the instruction you're getting, there's nobody that comes close to what we're charging for this. And we really want to help new people get going with this. So please check our website at www.penergiclife.com. We're going to have the calendar filled up with days that we're going to be doing training both out at Horse and Hunt Club in Prior Lake, Minnesota, and at Grantsburg Rod and Gun Club in Grantsburg, Wisconsin. And we also will be doing some AR stuff too, if people are interested in doing that. We're going to do sort of the same thing, the crawl, walk, run. And we also might be down the road here mixing some survival with CCW and some weapons training as well. So it's worth checking out if you're new, if you're scared. We have Jamie on board, who is a licensed therapist. If you're like, I don't know about this, I'm intimidated, I got these guys that are going to be doing this. Nope, we specialize in new shooters, and we will work on the anxiety, getting all of that down. We'll work with Jamie with this, and work with us as well. Chris and I are very, very cognizant of all of that. And we don't want you to think that we're there just trying to train pros and be all tactical, because we're the anti-tactical. We are fundamentals. Fundamentals is what we focus on. Having what provides more personal joy to me is taking someone who is scared of a firearm and getting them to the point where, hey, I can do this, and then to the point where, wow, this is actually something I enjoy doing, and it's actually kind of cathartic. So please look at us for that. Do you have anything you want to add, Chris? Your mic's off.
Yeah, real quick, some of the stuff that you mentioned there about the survival course. So there's real takeaways from the survival course real quick is learning to recognize stress and how to deal with some of that stuff. Also, being prepared is not being scared. So there's really a lot of stuff that you become more confident in yourself. A lot of the stuff that we do through that, not only with the weapon stuff, but also throughout all of our courses, we just want to build that confidence in you so you can lead your family, lead whoever is out there, maybe a small group or whatever, and you can carry on these skills to other parts of your life. So look, like Matt said, check our website, penergiclife.com. The calendar is filling up pretty good. So, and also I'd like to mention, even though that we're in Minnesota or Wisconsin, you can fly. The TSA does allow you to fly with your weapon. You obviously can't carry it with you, but you can case it and lock it. Just check beforehand, and you can stay wherever. We have hotels in the area where we're at. We've already checked all that. We can make recommendations for you. It doesn't mean that since you're out of state, you can't take these class. So sign up. You got any questions, just contact us, and we're more than happy to help you out through all that. So
and we can help you. And that's a great point that Chris brought up. Flying with a firearm, it's actually pretty easy. I know it's intimidating because you're like, oh my God, I'm bringing a firearm into. You need a TSA approved lockable case, like a stack on with a little combination on it, right? You have to empty all ammo out. Ammo's got to be in a separate container. You can put your magazine, your gun. I always put a chamber flag in mine. You walk up to the counter. It's locked in the case inside your luggage. You tell them I have a firearm on board. They're going to make you fill out paperwork. They're going to give you a card that goes on top that's filled out. You put it on in your luggage on top of where the firearm is. They're going to take your checked luggage. They're going to walk with you over to TSA. TSA will take your luggage. They'll put it on. They're going to scan it again. They're going to put it on a conveyor belt to scan it again while you sit there and wait. They're going to see what you have in there to make sure everything is the way it's supposed to be. And then they're going to say, hey, have a good flight, and you can move on to your gate, and you will get your firearm either at the baggage where everybody else gets theirs. Sometimes some airports take it into their holding area where they have lost luggage. But it's as easy as that, flying with a firearm. TSA approved case, keep ammo out separately from keep it in another container from your weapon. I put a chamber flag in there, fill out the paperwork, go through the TSA process. It's actually pretty damn easy. You might want to call ahead of time and verify that that's the process. That is the process. Another class I want to talk about is we are doing a junior survival, and I think it's 15 to 17, if I'm not mistaken, that we're going to be running in the area of Grantsburg. And we may be doing some stuff up in Superior National Forest too. So if anybody has some kids that are interested in learning some really cool outdoor skills, it'd be a fun class and a good getaway from everything that's been going on here lately. And it will be a electronics free class. There will be no electronics in this class, but I guarantee you they will have a blast. As is anybody who decides to take one of our courses. We also have the military readiness course. You can read about that. That's for people who are deciding whether they want to go into the military or not. We really give them a leg up if they decide to do that, so they will succeed when they go to basic and succeed in getting the MOS they want. We have the foundation, which is our expeditions for veterans and veterans' families too. You can read all about that in detail on our website. Are there any other questions out there, Chris, that people have asked?
Nope, that's it. So we're probably going to wrap up this evening. So hey, it was a good talk tonight. We had a couple pretty cool questions. So any other feedback, just contact us and we'll get back to you. Contact us through the website or give us a call or whatever. We're more
Or
than
even
happy
on
to
the
help you
YouTube
out.
channel? Even on the
Yeah.
YouTube channel.
Yep. Yeah, that's all I have. You got any closing comments?
No, I don't have any closing comments. Just keep the faith out there. Be nice to one another. Let's get to a place where we can sit down and agree to disagree and be able to talk to our neighbor. I mean, just because we're on different ends of the political aisle doesn't mean that we cannot sit down and be friendly and cordial with one another and look at each other as both Americans instead of some, particular group. I just don't like where this country is being pushed right now, and let's work together. Let's get our economy back going. Let's really put pressure on our politicians to bring companies back here and to not deal with evil companies or countries like China. We really need to bring our companies back here. We need to start employing more Americans, and we need to start getting Americans into the trades and Americans back working again with their hands, because that is a need that we have. We're always going to have it. Okay. And it's a very good vehicle in order to get somebody up into that middle class. And I want this country to be successful. I want everybody to go out and be successful. Let's start looking at ourselves as Americans. In the meantime, we will see you next week. Go and check out our website, www.prenergiclife.com. And remember to live in freedom every day. Thank you very much.
All right, live in freedom every day. Have a good week, everybody.